Hello and welcome back. So if you want to follow along, go ahead and grab this image from your resources folder and we'll go ahead and get started on fixing this image. So what exactly is wrong with it? Well, I took this image across the street and I couldn't go back any further than from where I was standing at the time. And even though I was using a wide angle lens, I still couldn't fit the entire church inside the frame. And at the same time, I ended up having to shoot up in order to get the entire building, and this ended up causing perspective issues. If we take a look at the edge of the building right here, it's leaning to the right. Our telephone pole is also leaning. This is not natural. It should be straight up and down. Over on this side, the same thing. We can see that this part of the building is leaning as well to the left, and our lampposts are leaning as well. So we can fix this with our perspective tool and make these lines straight up and down and straighten out our telephone poles as well as our light lamps here as well. So to access the perspective tool, we're going to go to our crop tool and we're going to click inside of it to select the perspective crop tool. Once you do, it's not going to automatically apply the grid overlay like it did with the crop tool. So we're going to go ahead and click and drag out over the entire image. Now what we need to do is we need to align these grids with the edges of the building or the telephone pole or the lamps or whatever it is you choose to align your grid to. So to do that, we're going to click and drag one of these corners to the right. And then we can see that the angles of the grid start to change. And then I can use those to align with the edges of the building or the telephone pole. So right there, I'm in alignment with the telephone pole and I can go ahead and let go of the mouse button to commit to that angle for that side of the image. We're going to also do the same thing for the right side of the image. I'm going to click and drag to the left and align it to the edge of the building or one of the lamps. So I think right there works pretty good, but the problem is it's kind of a balancing act because once you adjust the other side that you did first kind of gets moved a little bit. So now we're going to go ahead and click and realign this again and then come back over here and make sure that this is aligned properly. Otherwise, it's still going to be skewed a little bit and the perspective will be off just a little bit. Okay, so right there, again, we need to come back to the left side again and realign. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I have my grid along the outer edges of the building as well as on this side as well. Once you're happy with the grid alignment, go ahead and commit with return or the enter key or click on this icon to commit to it, and Photoshop will automatically fix the perspective of the image. We can now see that the telephone pole is straight up and down as well as our lampposts, but it's also kind of distorted it a little bit. It's kind of stretched out a little bit in the middle, but that's to be expected when you're trying to fix an image that has that much of a perspective problem. The other thing is, although this line is straight here, we do have some leaning in the image in the middle areas here. So again, it's a balancing act to try and figure out along which lines we need to center. So let's go ahead and undo that with Command or Control and the letter Z. And let's go ahead and try it again. And this time we're going to align our lines more to the center of the image and see if we can get a better result that way. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and commit to that option. And again, we have straighter lines on the edges of the church here versus what we did previously. So if you're not getting the results on the outer edges of the building, you may want to try some lines that are located on the inside of the architecture. All right, so in the next lesson, we're going to work on a new perspective tool, and this is going to allow you to work on other types of perspective issues, and we're going to end up using the perspective warp tool for that lesson.